Hey guys, it's Rich with your Monday Spot on the Pagan Perspective. This week we're talking about collections, collecting, and pagan collectibles, I guess. Trying to bring up the topic here. Okay, this one comes from Diana the Celt, who writes, I have a question about pagan collections, or more specific things that pagans are / could be interested in collecting. The other day I met someone who has a large collection of crystals, divination tools such as tarot, oracle decks, runes, etc., pagan books from specific authors, and all the editions, paintings, and crafts. This person told me she has collected specific items for years now and has them on display and collects them because she wants to have a collection of items she relates to her craft / path. I was just wondering, do you guys also have some sort of collection related to paganism / pagan interest, or do you see these things as just a way to help in your daily pagan practice? So, okay, I have a few collections myself. Given my new career as somebody that buys and sells just about anything, I do cleanouts, I do auctions, I do estate sales. Matter of fact, I had an auction today that I was working at. But I do all these things where I find all kinds of stuff that can be either used or are part of a pagan type of practice. One case in point is a mortar and pestle collection. I have a small collection. I probably have about 5 or 6 of them. And the one that I like to use the most is huge. I found it at an auction. I paid $40. It was a freaking steal. And I love this thing, but it's huge, it's heavy, and it's not always practical to use if you want to do a little tiny bit of work. So I have a mortar and pestle that is smaller that I can use for smaller things. I have a wood one that, I don't really use that much. It was the first one that I ever got, so I still have that one. I have a couple marble ones. I have different ones for use just because different sizes can be used for different things. So, and sometimes I like to grind things up, set that aside, almost like I'm on a cooking show where I grind things up, set it aside, and then grind in another one, and then grind in another one, and then I can, grab a little from each one whenever I make my mixture. So, yeah, I have multiple mortar and pestles that I use for my practice, and I guess it's technically considered a collection. Because to be a collection, I think it's like 3 or more, you end up having a collection. I also have a vast collection of pagan books or, spiritual books of that nature. So I have a very big collection of those. And it's not for the sake of collecting. I find something in each book here and there, and I don't always get around to reading them. But whenever I find them, and I can find them cheap, and I, can find them in bulk and whatnot, I had a lot even before I started to do the buying and selling stuff. So I had a lot then, and I've only gotten more since I've started to buy and sell stuff. Sometimes I go to a yard sale and this person had a whole stack of them. So I just bought them all up. I did the bulk deal. So I got a whole bunch for a really great price, and now I have more books to sit there and read. But the thing is, I don't always get around to reading them. And eventually I'll probably I'll get all the information I need out of them, and I will either pass them along to somebody else, or I'll sell them, or I'll make sure that they find a home where they're needed, or I'll keep them because they are great reference books for me. So right now I do use them as mostly reference material, and I go through, I sift through, I find what I need, and then I move on to the next book. But eventually I'll sit down and I'll read from cover to cover each one. So no big loss there. It's not like I'm collecting just for the sake of collecting. I have tarot decks and oracle decks. I have probably about 50 of them. And for that, I've posted most. I think I have, probably about 5 decks that I haven't done reviews for on my personal channel. So you can go on to my personal channel and see all the decks I have, or the majority of the decks I have. I've done reviews on those decks. A lot of them I like to get because of the artwork. Some of them I get because of the book. Some I get for purely a studying purpose. There's one that's the Demon Tarot. And it's actually an Oracle deck. And I don't really do Oracle as much, but I was interested in this one because it has it has each card relates to a demon, and it's in the I can't even think of the book off the top of my head, but I bought it more as a study deck to study which of these demons are in this book and whatnot. And it's a very interesting deck. It's more of a study deck. I don't think I'd actually use it in a reading. So some of those decks I buy just purely because of the studying aspect. There's one called the After Tarot, which is, you know, what happens one moment after the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith depiction. And now there's one coming out, or it just came out, called the Before Tarot, which I was hoping that they would do that. And it's one moment before the moment in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. And those, I would say, are more of a study deck. What do you think happened one moment before this other scene was captured? And I think it's fascinating to see that. So I would love to get the Before Tarot. And then there are some fun decks, like the Housewives Tarot. That is a fun deck. It's fun to just sift through. It's cutely packaged. It's really neat. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the smile that it brings to me. Let's see. But mostly what I get tarot decks for are the cards. You know, I wouldn't want to spend money on a deck of tarot just for the book or just for the warm fuzzy it gives me in that one moment. I like the cards. I go for the artwork. I go for something that kind of speaks to me. And if I get it and it doesn't speak to me, but I pick up the book and the book is a fantastic book, then I got it for the book. Because there's one, it's called the Arthurian Tarot. Not really my cup of tea with the artwork. Not you know, something that I'm overly fascinated with. But the book is phenomenal. So I like that. Sometimes I get the tarot decks just for the books, and sometimes I get it just for the cards, and sometimes I get it because it gives me a warm fuzzy. So I do that with tarot decks. I do that with oracle decks. I consider them study decks. I like to see what symbolism people put into their decks. I love it. So I do have a fairly decent collection for somebody who collects not for the sake of collecting, but to use them in readings of tarot and oracle decks. Now, I haven't really gone through and used my tarot and oracle decks lately because a lot of my stuff is still in boxes. I know I've been living here again in New Jersey for, 8 months now, and I still haven't unpacked all of my boxes. That's how busy I've been. So a lot of it's actually unpacked. It's just sitting behind boxes in a cabinet, so I can't really get to it right now. But in the next couple probably weeks, I'll probably have all of that cleared out. So yeah, I can actually get to my decks and I can continue doing readings again. So I can actually continue doing readings with the decks that, you know, I haven't done a lot of readings with. So I love to get tarot decks because of the artwork, because of the books, because of the warm fuzzy that gives me. Again, not something for the sake of collecting, but something because it helps me with my thought process of tarot, or my thought process of where I am in my life, and you know what's going on up in this brain thing of mine. So I like to collect because it actually helps my practice. So that's why I collect. And I don't even know if I consider that collecting, but it kind of is a collection. I also have a lot of herbs. I have a ton of herbs. I bought them in bulk on eBay, so, you know, it's not like I went out and bought each one, like a pound of each one from Mountain Rose Herbs, which I do like their herbs a lot. But It's not like I went out and I paid a fortune for all this stuff. And quite frankly, you don't have to. A little dabble do you in a lot of herbs. So you don't have to buy in massive quantities. So I did buy these lots of herbs that they had on eBay. I think it was like 200 herbs for like, $50 or something like that. And they come in little tiny, bags. So it wasn't like it was a lot of money for what I got. And it's not like, it was all just kitchen herbs. So there were a lot of things in there that I've never heard of that give me a springboard of something to study. So that's always fun. And yeah, I haven't used all of them. And eventually I will use some of them. Some of them may never get used, but I'll find a use for them somewhere along the line, I'm sure. Let's see. I think that's all the collections that I really have. I can't think of anything else. I do have a small collection of meditation CDs, guided meditations and whatnot. Not anything huge. So, see, crystals. I do have crystals. I have stones. I got a rock. So, yeah, I have a lot of rocks and crystals. Most of which I do not know which ones they are because, again, I bought them in bulk. I got them at an auction for a steal. So I was able to find them at an auction. I got a whole bunch of them for cheap. And it's one of those things where I'll take them home. I'll go through them. I'll eventually find out which ones each one of them are. But they give me something to think about, give me something to look through, give me something to meditate with to see what resonates with me and what doesn't. And the ones that don't resonate with me, that don't really have a use in my daily practice, will find new homes at some point, whether it's sooner or later. So no harm, no foul there. And I think that's all that I have for this week as far as collections. If you collect something that relates to your practice, I didn't talk about artwork. I do have some artwork pieces that I do have that relate to my practice. Some that I bought before I started practicing that are just really kind of cool. Some that I pick up here and there, some statuary here and there that I pick up that's, kind of neat, that kind of has use in my practice. But nothing really too big or too out there to write home about. So yeah, I might have to do videos on my personal channel about all that stuff. So yeah, now I think I said everything. So if you guys collect anything that deals with your practice, yeah, go ahead and tell me in the bottom bar. I didn't mention my curios. I have a camel skull and a skunk skull, but I don't really use those in my practice. So yeah, I have some other bones. I might do videos on those in the future. But yeah, it's not something I collect. It's something that I have and that have found homes with me. So not something that I actually sought out to utilize in my practice. So I didn't really want to mention that for that purpose. But yeah, if you have any collections or anything like that, now I'm just rambling. If you have any collections or anything that you would like to discuss, drop them on down in the bottom bar there in the comments below. And I think we're doing next week too, right? Yes. So until next week, may you guys have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.